All right, so in this lab here, we're going to be looking at cellular respiration. So first thing you need to do, go ahead and fill in that equation right there. It is from your notes. So if you haven't taken the notes from the previous day, make sure you go back and do that. The next thing, so in the lab, we're going to measure how much carbon dioxide is made when you're sitting and exercising. So remember, carbon dioxide is what we breathe out. So we're going to exhale into a solution of bromethymol blue for 1 minute after we sit, and then after we, oh, that's a typo, after we exercise, okay? So bromethymol blue is a pH indicator, and that means it turns colors based on whether it's acidic or basic. So we've used bromethymol blue before. It's blue when it's a base, it's green when it's neutral, and it's yellow when it's acidic. So we're going to start off with this bromethymol blue being blue, and what's going to happen is we're going to blow bubbles into it, and carbon dioxide is acidic. So it's going to change it from that blue base to a yellow acid. So the more CO2 we breathe in, the more yellow it will become. So now we have to fill in the pH range and how much CO2 is present. So if we take a look here, blue, it says bromethymol blue is blue in a pH range of 7.5 to 14. So that's what we're going to write here for the pH range, 7.5 to 14. If you want, you can write basic as well. And then how much CO2 is present? Well, that's our starting color. So we're not going to have any CO2 in there. So we're going to write none for that one. The opposite would be yellow, which we have our pH of 0 to 6.5. And that would have a lot of CO2. So when we breathe in our CO2 into that solution, it's going to turn from blue to yellow. So next part here, after we blow bubbles into the solution, it will turn yellow. In order to turn it back to its original blue color, what has to happen? So remember, starting off blue, add CO2, it's going to turn yellow. So in order to get it back to blue, we have to either remove CO2, the opposite, right? We're blowing bubbles in, so we have to remove CO2. Or because CO2 is acidic and we added an acid, we would have to add a base. So those are your two answers there. In this case, we're not going to try to take the CO2 out. I'm not going to have you try to suck up all the CO2 from the straw. So we're going to add a base. So it says you'll be measuring the amount of carbon dioxide in each bromethymol blue solution by looking at how much base has to be added to the solution to get to its original blue color. The base we'll be using in this lab is called sodium hydroxide. So if a solution has a lot of carbon dioxide in it, how many drops of this base would it take to turn back to blue? So remember, we're starting off blue, we blew a lot of bubbles. If we blow a lot of CO2 in there, how much base, CO2 is acidic, how much base is it going to take to turn back to blue? It would take a lot. And if it does not have a lot of carbon dioxide in it, it's not going to take as many drops to turn back to blue. So we're going to use this sodium hydroxide in order to measure how much CO2 is in the solution, because CO2 is acidic, sodium hydroxide is a base, and we can use that color change to figure it out. So what you have here, one person blew bubbles for 1 minute, okay? And this is while they're sitting. So while sitting, they're going to blow bubbles in the bromethymol blue. Okay, so they're not doing a lot of exercise or anything. And then after they're done, remember our bromethymol blues turned yellow. So they're going to record how many drops does it take to get back to blue. And so you can see that down below. That took them 35 drops. Then they repeated it again. Then they exercised for a minute. And after exercise, they blew into the bromethymol blue. Now remember, when they're exercising, their heart is pumping a lot faster, they're breathing faster, so they're going to be exhaling a lot more CO2 here. So it's still going to turn yellow, but there's more CO2 in it. So when they record how many drops are being dropped back in before it turns completely blue, it's going to be a lot more drops, and that's what we see here. So you need to calculate the average. So remember, adding these two up and then divide by the total number, so 2. So add these up, divide by 2 to find the average, and then answer the questions.